So it's been a couple of months since I started incorporating the Digitakt into my DAWless workflow, and it's really starting to click and act as the center of my setup, mainly as the brain, but also a lot of sampling with the slice machine, the work machine, all that kind of stuff. But one thing that we haven't done here on the channel is see how it works with ambient music. And we could do just the Digitakt, but instead I want to test out this whole DAWless setup I've been building for the last couple of years that I feel pretty much is complete, because the Digitakt can do a lot with per step automation, pattern sequencing that's really technical and in-depth. But then we've also got the circuit tracks, which we can do some really cool generative type sounds. We've got the SP404 MK2. If we want to, we can resample. And we've got some awesome analog synths. So we've got the Prophet 08 up there that I think we'll use. We'll sample that into the Digitakt, slice it up, or just repitch it maybe. We've done a lot with slice and work, kind of thinking just mess with one-shot mode. So I'm just gonna hit the sample and I'm gonna enable 64 steps, because I'm going to record an octave higher and then drop it, so I'll need it to be 128 in total, which I could record it at that and just do that octave, but I like to record it at an octave higher and then drop the pitch in the sampler. It's just a nice way to get some artifacting, but to me, it just sounds better that way. So let's throw this into a track on the Digitakt and then we'll start building up, seeing what we can get. And now if I get out of chromatic mode, turn this on, you'll hear it's there. And then we just need to enable the infinite playback. I'm gonna do a quick bit of sound design, nothing crazy. Just get some reverb on here. Yeah, that should be good. Add a little more decay. Take out some of that low end. Now, what we will do, we'll keep it to one shot right now. There's lots of ways we could explore what we want to do, but I'm gonna just drop it an octave and hold function. It goes down 12. Nice little way to get it done quick. Now let's hear what it sounds like, because this is or should be the octave I actually intended for it to sound at. There it is. Now let's add a little bit reduction. Mess with the filter a little bit, add a little resonance, and I think, first thing we need to do, let's go 64 length and drop the scale to half. Here we go. So now if we put that in on 1, let's go here, put that right on 1, and I'm gonna shut off the drums that I had acting as the metronome. So now instead of 64, it's actually 128. So that'll play a lot slower, as you can see. The change comes on the 3rd instead of what would be the 2. So we need that because we dropped it an octave, so it made it double in length, and so this is a way to offset that. So we've got that. Let's see what else we can maybe add on the Digitakt before we start adding some circuit, because I'll have to change the camera around. I'm kind of thinking make this kind of like an Aphex to an ambient song, like Stone and Focus or something like that. I'm gonna add a couple little percussion elements, and then we can always take them out if we don't want them. But we've got all these tracks left open. Maybe record a bass sound. Yeah, let's get the bass sound in first, actually. And I think I have some one-shot notes. This one, that's actually my voice that I auto-tuned. That could work. This might sound cool, this Juno. Yeah, let's throw that in, and we'll just drop it right down. Raise the volume up. Let's go and check out the sample. I'm gonna move the start point. That should work. That should be perfect. And then I'm just going to change the attack on the amp. Yeah, I like that. Let's hear what it sounds like in chromatic mode. So the chord progression I was using were some inversions, right? I was using an inversion of C major 7 and then just moving things around. So I think if we do C to F, let's see, C, F, G will work. And we might need to loop it. This might get a little wonky because the sample we're using has some weird sounds as it goes on. We might have to do a little more sound design on it, but let's just put that in. Put the metronome on. So slow. Oh, I like that CFE. All right, so we've got the bass and the pad, and now I just want to add a couple of little percussive sounds that kind of go around. We might not keep it, but I just want to put it in just to have it. Then we're going to add some generative sounds in the circuit tracks. So we'll make it sound pretty different with that, and then we'll start worrying about effects and all that kind of stuff. We've got all these empty tracks, so I'm going to just go to this click, or kick I should say, and I'm going to turn that into, let's say, I think I have some rim shots. Yeah, that works. And then I'm just going to put that one off a little bit, put that one off more, that one off a little more. It sounds basically like a click track, right? So what I want to do is go into an LFO, turn that on, and let's go, say every 4 on that. I don't know why I just did that. We don't want that. Destination, let's go to the filter, and we'll change that. Just kind of moving in the background. Just pops up to say hello every once in a while, just kind of there, and I'm going to drop the volume a lot. So it just really kind of is in the background there to add a little something. Now I do have some rain as well, so we can go and get some rain sound. There we go, so we've got some rain. Let's filter out some of that high end, add some bit reduction. Yeah, that should work. And we'll just put that in start, and we'll make sure that the amp is all the way up. Add a little reverb so it all kind of feels like it's in the same room or sound font, whatever you want to call it. There we go. We can even add some delay to that click. Let's do maybe dotted eighth. And we'll just put it on only that click for now. That should work. And then let's check out what bus I have the output on. Input is on bus 2, so I'm going to put it to bus 1. Get some SX reverb. Already instantly more lush. And let's add some lo-fi. And just so you can see it for bus 3 and 4, I've got cassette sim. We're gonna add some age. I really want this to be damaged sounding, warped, you know, so we'll up the wow and flutter. And then I think on 4, I've got 303 vinyl sim, adding some nice compression. We could even do noise if we wanted it. I don't want that. And some vinyl. There we go, that's perfect. So we could end it there, call it. I mean, that's a nice lush sounding ambient track on its own right. But there's a lot more we can do with this DAWless setup. I have the circuit tracks right above here, and I think we'll set that up and then we'll add some generative sounds. And I'll show you how I do generative on the circuit tracks. I know you can do generative stuff on the Digitakt, but first of all, we're limited to monophonic. We're not with the circuit tracks, so that's a nice little thing. But I'm still learning that aspect, so I'll cover that in a video in the future. Once it's up, I'll put a link to it in the description. So I'm gonna move the camera around because like I mentioned, I'm having some weird tech issues today, so I'm working on a 1-camera setup. Okay, so we've got the circuit up, and there's 2 main reasons that I keep the circuit in the setup despite the Digitakt and SP being such a powerful combo. One is what we talked about a little earlier, generative music making, because it's a little more flexible in terms of polyphonic, so multiple voices at once, generative sounds compared to the Digitakt. And I'm still getting the hang of generative type sound design on the Digitakt, so I keep it there for that. But the other is that you can do live mixing, and I have a video in the description if you want to see more how I do my sort of live looping in this setup with the Digitakt and SP and circuit tracks, with the circuit tracks doing the live looping. But today what we're going to do is the generative sounds on top of the circuit. So everything is connected with the Digitakt as the brain, so it's all got the same BPM, and when I hit play on the Digitakt, the circuit starts playing. So we could just program some sounds in, and that's what we'll do right now. I've got this nice little pad, and one thing that we're going to need to check up on is octaves, right? So that main sound, since we dropped it an octave, is right here. So we want to work in this higher range, because otherwise there's going to be some competition between all the sounds. So the first thing we're going to do is really simple. Just figure out, oh, we're in C minor. So the first thing that we're going to do is just figure out what kind of notes sound really good throughout the chord progression, because the way we're going to do generative with randomness, it could play any note at any time. So see, this one doesn't sound good on that one. So I'm just playing through the whole time. Okay, so we know those work. So now what we're going to do is one row is going to be the higher octave, one row is going to be the lower octave. So I'm just going to go in. Here's where we get the generative aspect. We're going to switch from playing just in succession, straightforward, to random. So now you can see it's bouncing around all these different notes, but it's pretty fast. That's still pretty fast. So we're going to drop it to really slow. And then probability is really where the generative aspect comes in, because this means it's going to play every time that random sequencer chooses or triggers it. So we're going to drop that to, let's say, 50%. And we can always change it if it's playing too frequently. Okay, so now, see, skip that, play that one. There we go. So that's what we want. And then the other thing we're going to do is just add a little gate or duration to the hold of each note so that it sounds more like a lead and not a very fast sound. So here now it's kind of interacting with itself, and you're getting these very interesting dynamics that don't always happen. And I'm just messing with sounds a little bit. Let's get a nice long reverb on there, little delay. So my goal here is to get everything interacting in very strange and unusual and unexpected ways. So there's some delay and there's some reverb, so the notes go even longer. And so something's always kind of happening, or should be. So we're gonna get new melodies constantly evolving and droning over the sounds we made on the Digitakt. And the Digitakt sounds are constant, they're always gonna happen. But we don't know what's gonna happen with the circuit, right? And we could even add more. I've got over to my right, MIDI 1 is the MS1, which you can't really see, my face is blocking it, and then MIDI 2 is the Erebus. So we could do some interesting swells or something. Let's hear what this sounds like with the Digitakt playing. I like where it's going. Let's add something with the MS1. Ooh, I kind of hear an interesting idea there. Okay, I really like where that's going. I'm just gonna do a quick little bit of sound design on the MS1 and see what we can kind of get. And then I think we're about ready for a jam. We've built some interesting little sounds and we can just kind of, this is what I mean sort of by the live looping. What I would do if I was actually wanting to use the live looping, I would do these parts live, just hit record, do it, and then let it play out. So it's live MIDI sequencing or MIDI looping, but a nicer way to say it is live looping. So I'm just gonna change the sounds a little bit on the MS1 and then we'll go back to the Digitakt, check out what we've got and then do a final jam. Okay, so I am pretty stoked with how this turned out. I think we could do some more to incorporate the SP404, but I don't think we need to. I think this is perfect as is. We could resample into the SP, do all kinds of stuff, but I think that's for another video. We've got the SP working as a master effects and mastering, so to speak, all the output with the compressor and the cassette sim and all that type of stuff. I'm happy with just using it for that right now. The Digitakt and the circuit are doing all the work, and I don't mind that because that's a combo I don't normally use, so it's fun to use these different things. It's been a couple months since I've had the Digitakt and incorporating it more and more as the brain of this setup, and I really feel like as I get more into it, it really creates this DAW-like strength or power, but without always having to stare at the screen and getting bogged down by all the options. When I need effects, I have them with the SP. I am a perfectionist when it comes to DAW music, and I just add effect after effect and keep changing things and moving things around. This stops me from doing that, and so I like that. So you might ask, why do this, right? Why have all these different pieces of hardware that can do so little compared to one computer with all these kinds of effects and just options after option? And that's why I get option paralysis with it. Maybe you don't, and that's great. And I still use the DAW when I'm doing commission work and all that type of stuff. It's really more just when I want to do the music I want to make. I like to get away and get things done. And you're locked in when you do this, and it's just fun to get hyper focused and change knobs and hear the result quickly and instantly and feel that tactile response when your hand actually moves a knob, something changes. It's not like using a mouse and all that. So that's why I do it. Let me know in the comments if you feel similar, if you're DAW only, if you're both. I like to do hybrid setups. I've done stuff like that, and I'm working on an Overbridge process that pairs with the SP404 using USB-C. So I'll have some stuff on that soon. Let me know though if you're interested in that, and I'll try and move it up in the recording schedule. But yeah, that it should be a pretty big game changer in creating a truly hybrid setup where you can do everything with the DAW or with the DAWless setup and then have it all controlled with the DAW without a bunch of mixers, because Overbridge allows all of the Digitakt channels and one audio channel. So there's a lot of flexibility there when you're working in a DAW with that. So I don't like to think of DAW versus DAWless. I like to think of it both end, like use the strengths of the DAW, use the strengths of the DAWless. So I'm trying to find a way to kind of bridge that gap, but still have that efficiency and tactile response of a DAWless setup. Anyways, I appreciate you hanging out. The full jam will be up for all channel members, but we'll do a quick jam right now. All of the sounds and samples that we made today will be up for Solar Sailor members. So hit that join button down below if you want to check it out. There's a lot there, and it is the best way to support the channel. Leaving a thumbs up, commenting, all of that helps a ton. But of course, just hang out is more than enough. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.